If you found yourself here, it's probably because you have a strange and wonderful mind. Let me reassure you, you are in the right place. My name is Sara, and this is Sara After Dark. Firstly, welcome back. In today's episode, we are going to be delving into everything reincarnation. I am also going to be joined by a special guest who is very experienced in this field. So buckle up, and again, let me take you into the After Dark. I speak about reincarnation a lot. I've covered many stories showing various different types of examples, children who remember their past life, for example, which is something we are going to do in a second. And I am very much a believer, so much so that I went on to having past life regression done myself, and it just confirmed to me that this is absolutely real. So what is reincarnation for anyone who's maybe a little bit unsure? Reincarnation is the belief that when we die, at some point in that transition into the afterlife, our soul is reborn into a brand new life. Now, various religions are into the belief of reincarnation. It's heavily rooted in Hinduism and even Buddhism. You may have heard of these child stories where children are having visions, flashbacks, or even real core memories of their life before. Now, I'm going to jump straight in with one of these stories, and this is the story of Eric. Eric was described as being slightly advanced for his age, especially when it come to communication and understanding his surroundings. By the age of 1.5, Eric had begun having nightmares. As his talking progressed, he began sharing glimpses of these dreams and even nightmares with his mother. He would tell her that he was in a castle, almost in the sky, but he wasn't Eric. He was insistent that he was somebody else. He said when he would climb down from the ladder, suddenly he would then change into Eric, and that would get him agitated and frightened. His mother was obviously confused, but just allowed him to speak. And this became quite a regular occurrence. It was coming up to Eric's actual birthday, which was June 21st, which also become a problem because he repeatedly told his mother that his birthday was in fact on the 26th, not the 21st, even pointing to the date in the calendar on the kitchen. He became really upset and angry, almost like his parents had forgotten when his actual birthday was. Eric's middle name was Cole, but Eric would never pronounce it as Cole. In fact, he would say his name was Eric Core. Even when being corrected to Cole, he would say, no, it's Core. Just like my mummy's name. His mother corrected him and said, no, I'm your mummy, and my name is Jennifer. To which Eric then said, Jennifer is my daughter's name. Anyway, Eric would always talk about Hollywood, how he needed to go back there, how he had things to do, unfinished business. He also said he had a house that needed to be fixed and people would be expecting him. But Eric began getting really angry when he realised he wasn't going to Hollywood. So he started to refuse to eat. He started to refuse to go to sleep. In fact, he wouldn't do anything until he went to Hollywood, to the point where his parents were desperate. They hoped by organising and telling Eric they were going to take him to Hollywood would be enough to finally put an end to it all. They told Eric they would, and he was happy. But Eric's father was baffled by all of this. He described Eric as somewhat of a normal child other than the things that he would say. He wasn't the type of child who wanted to be outside. He was more of a indoor type of kid who just wanted to watch TV. But Eric's mother was strict and would allow him to watch certain cartoons, but only things that she felt was appropriate, which made it even weirder because Eric's father couldn't understand this connection with Hollywood. How did he know what Hollywood was? How did he know what was even in Hollywood? Throughout this whole time, the nightmares were still happening, but now Eric was getting a little bit more advanced. So were the details coming from the dreams. He told his parents that he has to relive his death, and that's why he wakes up crying. He claimed that every night in his dreams he is crushed by something riding over the top of him, and it makes him jump and wakes him up. But then he's upset because he's now Eric. It was getting to the point where his parents started to feel that this was something so much more than an active imagination. So they sat Eric down and began asking him questions. His father said, "So Eric, did you work in Hollywood?" And he said, "Yes." And he said, "Were you an actor?" Eric laughed and said, "No, I don't like actors." He said, "Okay, maybe a director or a cameraman." Again, Eric shrugged his shoulders and said no. His mother then said, "Did you write something?" To which Eric looked up, smiled and nodded. He said, "Yes, I write movies and other stuff too." In fact, Eric claimed that he had written Gone with the Wind, a 1939 movie starring Scarlett O'Hara. He said, "That was my movie. I wrote it. I love that movie." Which, by the way, for context, Eric's parents were absolutely baffled because he had never seen that movie. There is no way he could have watched that movie. Anyway, Eric's mother began doing some research to find out who exactly wrote that movie. And it turned out it was a man called Sidney Howard. One of the first things she realised that made her quite shocked was that Sidney's middle name was Ko, exactly the same way that Eric claimed his middle name was. In fact, that was also Sidney's mother's maiden name, to which Eric claimed that to be true too. So she began digging deeper into Sidney Howard to try and find everything that she possibly could. And she found out that he did in fact have a daughter called Jennifer. Sidney's birthday was June 26, which is exactly what Eric had pointed to on that kitchen calendar. But what they also found out convinced Eric's parents that he was the reincarnation of Sidney Howard. And that was because Sidney was killed by being crushed. Sidney was on his farm when the accident had occurred. The tractor had ran him over, resulting in his death. Was Eric reliving this tragedy over and over again in these nightmares? His parents located two surviving daughters of Sidney Howard. They explained the situation and who Eric was, and more importantly, who they thought he was. They said if it was possible, could they come and visit Sidney's farm, to which they actually agreed. His parents believed that taking Eric back to the farm would somehow maybe bring some closure into their son's experience and help him move on and accept his new life as Eric. As soon as they arrived, Eric insisted that he took his parents on a tour of the house and a tour of the grounds, to which he did, bearing in mind this kid has never been to this place before, let alone even seen a photograph of it. Before heading back home, they went on one last visit. They decided to take Eric to the cemetery in which Sidney was buried. They didn't tell Eric why they were there, where they were going, or why they were even going to that place. But as soon as they pulled up, Eric got out the car and said, "I know this place." He then began walking through the cemetery, walking directly to the headstone, which of course belonged to Sidney Howard. Eventually, they had returned home and hoped that this would be the end to everything, but it wasn't. The nightmares continued. Every single night, Eric was being awoken and crying through the night. In one last desperate plea before seeking medical help, they decided to take Eric to Hollywood. In fact, his parents organised a tour of various sites, and one big surprise, a personalised Gone with the Wind tour in a Hollywood museum. Eric's eyes lit up, touching props from the movie, even the Academy Award that the movie had won. His mother said throughout this whole visit, Eric was almost in a daze, overwhelmed, but in a good way. Since returning home from that visit, the nightmares actually stopped. His parents claim that Eric still talks about Hollywood, but more telling his parents that he's going to grow up and write some amazing movies. Everything clicked into normal, and they truly believe that Eric and Sidney found the closure that they needed. You know what? Throughout all of my research and covering these types of stories, which consistently amaze me, I do see a pattern. Usually these children are fast talkers, fast developers. By the time they're speaking, they're already telling their parents about their previous life. And usually alongside that comes either nightmares or anxiety. I could not even begin to understand how confusing and stressful it must be for a child coming into this world trying to learn who they are, let alone deal with problems from a previous life. Now, I've got a very special guest who is joining the podcast today all about this subject, so I really do hope you guys enjoy this. Okay, so welcome. Can we start by you introducing yourself?
So hi Sara, yes, my name's Nina Wires and I am from Tickety Boom Quantum Healing.
Love it.
And I am a QHHT past life regressionist.
So what is a Q? Say them abbreviations again.
QHHT, so it stands for Quantum Healing Hypnosis Technique, and it is the Dolores Cannon method of past life regression. So it's very specific.
It's very in depth, isn't it?
Yes,
I know
is.
who Dolores is. So
Yes.
what got you into doing this? What you do?
Well, I've always been a spiritual person.
Okay.
I actually wanted to be a nun, believe it or not, when I was a little girl.
Wow, like proper nun, not Sister Act. Like,
No, like a proper nun.
okay,
Yeah,
okay,
it was a really random thing. But I think it was that whole. I wasn't born into a religious family or anything like that, but it was that whole like spiritual connection to something, but not knowing what it was. And
interesting.
a very funny story. Well, it's well, depending on which way you look at it. I watched a black and white epic when I was a little girl. That was of Queen Elizabeth I, and she'd locked up Mary Queen of Scots. I think it was in the Tower or something, and she
Yeah.
was very pious, and all she did was pray all day. And I thought, that's fantastic. That's what I want to do. So that was my.
It's the
I
most
know.
randomest thing I think I've ever heard.
Is a bit random. And so continued my, sort of like spiritual knowingness of
Yeah.
something. But as a little girl, seeing that was the only way to kind of do it. Obviously, I know better now, and I would have been a really awful nun.
Yeah.
Because of how rebellious I've been over the years. But then, I just always researched, and I first came across past life regression probably about 25 years ago when I picked up a book by Michael Newton. So
Yeah.
I'd say the three biggest names in the world in past life regression are Michael Newton, Dr.
Yeah.
Brian Weiss, and Dolores Cannon, of course.
Yeah.
And I read the book Life Between Lives, and I thought, wow, this is fantastic. And I did intend at that point to go and find somebody, and it was harder then because the internet wasn't like it is today, or
Yeah, of
didn't really
course.
actually exist really. And I did find somebody locally, but life was busy. I was full time in my corporate career at the time. I was starting to have children. So it kind of went by the wayside, but I was still, an avid reader when I could of spiritual philosophies, theologies, all different types, conflicting and just,
Yeah.
interesting and exploratory. And then it was probably in about 2018 that I came across a video of Dolores Cannon on Facebook. Facebook, believe it or
Facebook.
not. Facebook. And I thought, who is this old lady? Like, she's like fascinating.
She's really fascinating, yeah.
Really fascinating. And I just started watching more and more videos, and I was like, oh my God. And yeah, there's a lot more in between, but that's what brought me to Dolores Cannon, and eventually deciding to do the training in QHHT through her company, which her
Nice.
daughter still runs, Julia Cannon, because sadly Dolores passed away in 2014. And now, having left my corporate career, to do this full time.
That's so is it fair to say that you have always believed in reincarnation?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Yeah, it's just always been that inner knowing. Yes.
Yeah. So when you do these sessions, I guess is the right word, with people, you put them into, is it like a hypnotic state in a sense of meditation?
So it's the deepest level of trance. It's called the somnambulistic state.
Okay.
So I take my clients to the theta brainwave state, which
Yeah.
is a perfectly natural state to go into, because some people don't really trust hypnosis. They think
Yeah.
that they've seen the programs on TV and it's going to be like that and you're not going to have any awareness, and it's just not like that at all. If you don't want to be hypnotized, there's no way I'm going to hypnotize you.
Yeah.
But you go there twice a day anyway. So you go there just before you fall asleep and
Okay.
just before you wake up. So that is the state that I take my clients to.
Amazing. So when these people are in this meditation and they're going through the past life regression, what's the craziest encounter you've had? Because I'm curious, because you've obviously seen a lot of people say a lot of things while they're under your spell, should we say. How deep does this go? What type of stuff happens?
Well, I mean, the majority of people will have what Dolores Cannon called digging potatoes lives, where you're a peasant.
Yeah.
Or a farmer or something like that. But yes, there are those ones that will go intergalactic, interdimensional, or other types of lives. Or they'll go to the point in between lives. So, or what you might want to call heaven. So you always see what you are meant to see within a session. I don't take you anywhere. Your higher self guides you to what, and it is like amazing how it's always so relevant and exactly what you need to see.
Yeah.
So I've done sessions with people who go back to the times of Atlantis, and and they've been a mermaid. Or they have been one of the cat people that they used to experiment on in the times of Atlantis, and they would build things with their minds, like temples and all sorts of things. I've done intergalactic ones with beings that do have a body, but then visited Mars without one because they're projecting out there and seeing what's going on. I've done ones with people who've been beings as sort of like that look a bit like an octopus.
Okay.
Yeah.
I asked for crazy.
I know. I did one the other week, which was quite amazing, actually. And it was an interdimensional experience. And what she was experiencing was quite incredible. And she has a lot of health problems in this life. So very intelligent lady.
Okay.
Very, very capable. But has a lot of health conditions in this lifetime, and one of them is a very, very rare condition where she has this disconnection within the tissues in her body, causes her problems. Anyway, the reason is because she's operating interdimensionally at so many levels that there's that disconnect.
So do you believe that something that may have happened in a past life or part of who you were does affect who you are now?
Absolutely, it kind of comes
even physically.
All the time. So I did a session with a lady who came to me, and she wanted to understand the root cause of her type 1 diabetes.
Okay.
And so nobody should ever be ill, according to what Dolores Cannon says, and all many other QHHT practitioners. This is what we understand from the work that we do. And if it is a message from the body, the higher self, to say, you need to do something about this. You're not moving in the right direction, or you're not listening, or what have you. And they can be quite literal, but it's not always the case that it's a message. Sometimes it's something that has been brought through from a previous life. So going back to this lady who came with type 1 diabetes and wanted to understand it, she I go through the induction to hypnotize them. And remember, I'm not doing anything. I'm just a hypnotherapist. I'm not a psychic. I'm not a medium. I'm not doing any of the talking. All I'm doing is asking questions, and everything is coming out of the client's mouth. So I do the induction. take this lady into a lifetime, and she's an 18-year-old boy in the Georgian era, and I go through a process where I get them to describe what they look like, etc. So he's wearing the black shoes with the square metal buckle, with the white tights, with the cropped knee-length gold embroidered trousers, with the
Nice.
white shirt, the white powdered wig, and the little black bow at the back. Proper Georgian.
Yeah, proper Georgian.
Proper Georgian. And anyway, he's sword fighting on a hill under a tree with his elder brother, who's in his early 20s. Just playfully, not, nothing serious. Yeah. But he accidentally gets stabbed in this play fight. And so in the next scene, because what I do is I move you forward in the life. Sometimes like there it would be just a little bit to see what next happens. Yeah. Sometimes I will say move forward to the next important day, and it could be years in the future of that life. But anyway, it moved forward just a little bit, and in that scene the footman is come with the black horse and carriage, and the footman and the brother pick up my client and put him in the back.
My client as a boy.
As a boy, yeah. And put him across the back bench of the carriage, and he's bleeding, and his brother's sat on the other bench opposite looking very concerned. The footman drives the carriage back to the big grand manor house, which like she describes as looking a bit like Downton Abbey. And they pull up outside, and the mother has obviously just been on a morning ride or something on a big black horse, and she's wearing a great big purple dress, and she gets down, and there's all this big kerfuffle, and the brother and the footman carry my client up the big grand steps into the big house with the big black and white checkerboard floor in the hall, and then the grand sweeping staircase that goes upstairs. They take him up to one of the bedrooms with a 4-poster bed and the great big gold floor-length heavy curtains and the red carpet rug. And in the next scene, the doctor is there, and the doctor stitched him up and put a bandage on, and the room's full of people, and then all the servants get shooed out, and he's one of 5 siblings.
Yeah.
And my client doesn't quite know what's going on, but the father is having a conversation with the doctor. So I said, well, listen in to what they're saying. So the father says to the doctor, is he going to be all right? And the doctor says, well, I don't know, I think so. He just needs to rest. So cutting a long story short, because lots more happened that night, and he died.
Okay.
Yeah. So when the difference with QHHT as opposed to classic past life regression is that halfway through the hypnosis, I invite the higher self to join us. That's your higher self, the part of you that knows everything that you might not be consciously aware of. So it's still tapped into source and lots of other universal information. And my first question is always, why did you show them that lifetime? Because sometimes it's really obvious to me. I'll tell you another one in a second. And like this one, sometimes it's not. So I said, why did you show my client that lifetime? And they said, because he was stabbed in the pancreas, which is where you make insulin.
Which has caused her to have type 1 diabetes.
In this life. And the type 1 diabetes in this lifetime only started occurring in her 20s, shortly after the time that she had died in that lifetime.
Got ya. Yeah. Got ya. That's actually, it's blew my mind, actually. That's incredible.
Do you want another one?
Yeah, I do. Can I get the popcorn?
It's so fascinating, honestly. So there was another client that I did who came with a skin condition called PXE. Again, like not like a regular skin condition. It's got other issues that can happen with the eyes as well, but it's basically to do with the elasticity in the skin. I'd never heard of it before, but it looks like a sort of a funny texture. And she also had eczema on top of the PXC. So
oh, God.
It was really itchy, it was really uncomfortable, she found it really unsightly, and again, she wanted to understand what the root cause. So a lot of people come for QHHT sessions to understand the root cause of not just health conditions, but reasons why they might have a problem with like a particular person in their life, because it can be karmic and all of that. But
Yeah.
anyway, getting back to this lifetime, and this one was blatantly obvious to me. Took my client into this lifetime, and she was an American soldier in Vietnam
Okay.
on an American base in a Vietnamese village. So then there was an explosion, and all of his comrades, well, most of them, sadly were killed in the blast.
Okay.
But she was describing feeling the full force of the explosion on her front, so could feel the heat all across her neck and her chest and the fronts of her arms within the session. So by the way, don't worry about this, because I immediately within the session take away any kind of sensation.
So they don't feel any pain or anything
Yeah,
like
there's
that.
no
Okay.
pain. And also, another really cool thing that you're able to do within a QHHT session sometimes, well, you can do it at any point, but I do it if I think it might be an issue for the client. I ask them to step outside of their body and
Okay.
view the scene from a third person perspective.
Oh, that's interesting. That's
Yeah.
amazing. You can even do that to begin with.
Yeah. So they're observing themselves
Got ya.
in the third person. But anyway, so immediately I was like, oh my gosh, that's why she's got the skin
Yeah.
condition in this lifetime, because it was all in exactly the same place. Now, he didn't die in that lifetime. So in the next scenes, we're seeing an army truck come and pick him up and put somebody else that's very badly injured in the back of it, and they go to Vietnamese hospital, and he's in and out of consciousness. And again, I take him out of his body at that point,
Yeah.
because so that he can explain what's going on, because he's a bit going in and out of
Yeah, of course.
consciousness. So that was all very fascinating. But he returns to America, and he grows old and everything. But he lives with these burns all of his lifetime, of how they look and everything.
Yeah.
And so it was quite traumatic to have to live with that. And so yes, she brought that through into this lifetime. Now, there's an element of healing involved, obviously, with QHHT, hence
Okay.
quantum healing.
Yeah.
So, depending on whether the higher self thinks it's appropriate, and I'll come to that in a second,
Yeah.
which is to do with lessons or things that you're supposed to be learning in this life, or karmic reasons, the higher self may agree to do a level of healing. So anyway, we were able to achieve that for my client, and during the days and weeks after the session, so they do it under hypnosis. So she immediately felt this cooling wave go
Okay.
all over her arms and chest. And she used to have to wear this really strong steroid cream
Yeah.
to manage the eczema. So anyway, in the days and weeks afterwards, she didn't have to do that. The redness went straight out of the eczema
What?
and calmed right down. Yes, and I kept in touch with her. And then it was about 6 months after her session, I said, can you give me another update? Because I use her session as one of my examples in the talks that I do at all the Mind, Body, Spirit fairs that I do.
Yeah.
And I said, can you give me another update? And she said, well, it's still like so much better. She said, but it has come back a little bit. And I said, well, how many times have you listened to your session since you had it, 6 months ago? It's just like,
Yeah.
well, I haven't really. It was just like the once. And I said, right, well, what Dolores Cannon always says is that if you've ever had healing within a QHHT session, because I always send a recording of
Okay.
the session to everybody,
That's good. Yeah.
is to always re-listen to it, especially if even just the healing part, because it sort of reaffirms it deep within your subconscious. You kind of like go
Yeah.
there again, so she did that, and it sort of like helped
worked.
renew everything again. Yeah.
That's incredible. I think you don't, you do. I think when you look at general reincarnation, when I look into stories and things like that, we look at things like birthmarks, and is that a symbol of how someone died? But I've never thought about it on such a deeper level to what you're saying in regards to health conditions and how that can, I just find it absolutely fascinating.
It
Totally
is.
fascinating.
So there's another story. It's not one of mine. It's actually one of Dolores Cannon's
Okay.
famous sessions that she did. So, and this is to do with the reason why you wouldn't be able to achieve healing. So a lady went to her who was born blind
Okay.
and said that she wanted to have healing on her sight. So Dolores did the whole session part, got to the higher self part, and said, right, okay, we want full and complete healing on this lady's sight. And they said no. And Dolores was like, why?
Yeah.
Because it's potential, I mean, she had some incredible stories.
Yeah.
So the higher self said no, because in an ancient lifetime, in ancient wherever, she was some sort of ruler whose favourite punishment was to gouge people's eyes out.
So would you call this karma?
Yes. So it's not. So what people have to understand is it's not punishment.
Yeah.
So you have to have a completely different perspective of your soul journey and helicopter view out. And a lifetime is like a chapter
Yeah.
within a soul journey. And so there is no right, there is no wrong. It's all about experience. And we have to plan our lifetime before we come here about what we are going to experience and what we are going to learn. And this lady had to agree to reincarnate back into this lifetime without her sight to balance that karmic debt, to experience lifetime without sight. And so there was nothing, it's like very limited what the higher self would do to support healing with that, because it's something that she's chosen to experience to balance that karmic debt.
Yeah, that's made me really evaluate my whole life now and how I'm going to treat people going forward.
Well, yeah, yeah.
I find it so fascinating. I just think, I know a lot of people, they don't believe in this type of stuff, or they're very, at the beginning of this, I wouldn't say I was 100% believer, but I was open to it. But I feel like the more that I've looked into things and, experienced things, there's no explanation for it. It is what it is. Reincarnation for me is 1000% real.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it is the University of, I might be wrong, but I think it's Virginia,
Okay.
have done the research into about 2,000 different cases of past lives and reincarnation,
Okay.
and been able to quantify a lot of the remembering. So not through regression necessarily, but young children, so up until about the age of 6, 7, 8, younger children can have that natural remembering, and
Yeah.
until they are told that it's their imagination, or
Yeah.
leave fanciful thoughts like that behind, they'll go, oh, yes, I had a lifetime as a World War II flight pilot, or in
Yeah.
the Navy, and they can name the ship and their friends, and then this information can be verified.
Yeah.
How is a 3-year-old supposed to know that? They know places, names, and different
Exactly.
things. So, yeah, I don't understand how that would be possible without any other method of other than remembering it.
Yeah, totally agree. I think kids can be influenced and kids can watch TV, but you're right, this starts at a very young age. Usually with cases, it begins the minute they start talking, they begin saying very weird things. And, a child that young isn't really influenced by TV, by environment, by their parents, because usually the parents are like, oh, stop it. It's just kids being kids. Usually the
Yeah.
parents don't even take in what the child's saying. So, you can't get much more proof than case studies like that. And
Yeah. Oh, there's so many stories out there. It's just so fascinating. I know, obviously, you talk about a lot of them, and I love listening to them. But yeah, I've been listening to those kinds of stories for years, and I find it fascinating too.
So,
You
but
know,
you're glad you'd done this rather than becoming a nun?
yeah.
Have you ever dressed up as a nun for Halloween? That is a question.
No, not a nun. Although I used to wear an outfit in my teenage years. There was a bit nun-like, but it had PVC boots with it, so probably not.
Okay, I've got a question for you. Given what you believe and what you do you believe in spirits, in afterlife?
Absolutely,
You,
because they come through in sessions sometimes.
okay,
So
that's
that
interesting.
is another thing that can happen. So when I'm
Okay,
talking to the higher self, so when I do a session with somebody, it's a full day. It's 7 to 8 hours with
yeah,
somebody. It's not a quick process. It's not classic past life regression that would be
yeah,
maybe 1 to 2 hours. So the first part of the day could be up to 2 to 4 hours of having a conversation with the client first, because I need to understand everything about their life. So I'll learn if there's certain people that mean a lot to them that have passed over, that
yeah,
they may, for a specific reason, want a connection with. Say if it's the loss of a child, or something like that, or a partner, or
yeah.
or a loved grandma, or something like that. So the part then, obviously, with the hypnosis is between 2.5 and sometimes up to 3.5 hours, and then there's a debrief at the end, hence why it can get to an 8 hour day, or 9.5 like it was last week.
Wow, that's a
Yeah,
long
I
day.
was quite exhausted
I
that
bet
day.
you were. Wow.
So yeah, so if I think it's going to be appropriate, I will ask the higher self whether it's appropriate that that family member can step forward and give a
Okay.
message to my client. And that's happened on multiple occasions, and it will be the actual family member that's speaking through my client to my client. In some cases, it will be the higher self delivering that message from
Um,
the
yeah,
family member.
yeah,
But in many cases, it's the family member themselves speaking to the client through the client. Obviously, the client is speaking, but it's their family member. So yeah,
That's incredible. That's
it's
incredible.
really
So
lovely.
how would you explain? Might be shotting you in the deep end here a little bit, but so if we believe in reincarnation and we believe that we can reincarnate into a next life and we've had many lives, where does spirit fit into that?
So, what you have to understand is that your soul is really massive, and just because. And so what is in your body now,
Yeah.
it's easier for me to describe it as a soul shard,
Yeah. Okay.
like a bit of your soul, because your soul is absolutely massive and it can't all fit in your body.
Yeah.
So while you've got a bit of your soul in your body, the rest of it, imagine it's existing outside of you as like a giant bubble.
Yeah. Okay.
So that bit is still in the astral realm, still, yeah, doing lots of stuff, or existing in multiple different lifetimes all at the same time, because there is no time. So
Yeah.
when I take you, what we call, back into a past lifetime, time is not like a long piece of string in a long line.
Yeah.
I'm not actually taking you back.
Yeah.
Imagine instead that all of these lives or experiences are actually layered on top of each other, and
Yeah.
they're all happening at the same time. So, so yeah, you're still kind of like everywhere.
Yeah. Little bits of you just every it no, it's fascinating. It is fascinating because I believe in both sides of it, but I feel like mentally sometimes for me to try and make that make sense, because I think, okay, so I believe that, a spirit is a soul, and the soul leaves the body with just a shell, and that transforms somehow into a spirit, but then I think, okay, but I do believe in reincarnation, so how have I reincarnated, but suddenly have I got a spirit in the middle? And I think a lot of people get confused with that, and they think, well, you can't believe in both, but you can.
Yeah.
You can. Yeah, of course you can.
Of course you can. It's like my client that I told you about, that we went to an interdimensional experience.
Yeah,
She's existing in so many different dimensional frequencies,
yeah,
not necessarily lives. That's slightly different again. Interdimensional frequencies, that it's causing a disconnect. It's difficult to maintain those different frequencies in multiple different places at the same time. But she does it because it's like part of her job on one of the dimensions.
one of the many. We are literally just a grain of sand, aren't we, in such a big universe.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It's difficult for people, because sometimes it's difficult for people to even get their head around the fact that they might have been a peasant in a past life.
Yeah.
Never mind then all of the other potential experiences that you could have lived as.
Yeah. Yeah, totally is.
Yeah.
So if anyone listening to this or watching this as a video would like to come and see you, how do they go about that?
Well, I am on every social media platform under the handle Tickety Boom Quantum Healing. And then I've got my website, which is ticketyboom.co.uk as well. And you can find out lots of information on there about how to book a session with me, which is, as I said before, a full day of in exploration.
And where is it you're based?
I'm based in Stockport in Manchester. All sessions have to be done in person. This is not a method that you can do online, and well, you just wouldn't want to, really.
No.
They have to be done in person.
And I will leave all of your handles and website below. So please do check this out, because I think everybody needs to experience something like this. And even if you're on the fence about it, maybe Nina is just what you need to change your mind.
Yes,
a little bit.
Arrange a chat with me, have a conversation. I can answer any questions. I'm happy to help.
Perfect. And you have been an absolute star here, and thank you so much for coming on.
That's my pleasure.
It's been nice to talk to you. I watch your videos and I see you pop up, so it's nice to actually interact with you.
Well, thanks very much. Same with you, and you need to come for a session too.
I'm absolutely going to do that. I would love to do that, in fact. And maybe once that happens, we can come back, revisit this, and talk about exactly what happened.
Yeah, see what amazing experiences you've had.
Yeah, for sure.
Intergalactic.
Maybe I was a nun in a past life. Maybe no, I don't want to do that, because then that's going to cause jealousy for you, and I don't. A big massive thank you to Nina for joining this today. I absolutely loved chatting with her. She is amazing, and she's got some fascinating stories. If you'd like to go and follow Nina on social media, I have left all of her details below in the description. Also below is Nina's website, so if you want to book one of these sessions for yourself, please go and check it out. And back to you guys, a massive thank you for returning. If you've returned, if you're new, then welcome. Every Wednesday this episode drops. Weird Wednesday is wonderful. And until next time, keep being a little bit different, even a little bit spooky. Good night.